K&A Custom Crafts on Facebook.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Coast to Coast Entertainment Network. I am Ace, and you're watching another episode of Sportsminute. Let's welcome in my co-host. That's right, Mr. Big B. How you doing tonight, my man?
Hey, doing good. Had a good night in cards, so I'm happy there. And now I get to talk sports, so I'm even happier. So let's go.
All right, I love it. And then welcome in our newest co-host on Sportsminute. That's right. He will be joining us now on Wednesday nights. That's right. His name is James Gonzalez. Welcome him in. How's it going tonight, my man?
I'm doing great. I just got back and been traveling a lot, and it's always good to talk some sports with the guys, and can't wait to get to the topics.
All right. And then, of course, Crispy Bacon's going to be filling in tonight. So, Crispy, How's it going tonight?
I'm doing good. How's everybody doing tonight?
I can't complain. Really can't complain. And even if I did, no one would listen anyway. But you know what? We have some awesome topics for you tonight. Number one, we're going to start out with, I think, what some people call as very surprising news. I don't think anybody was expecting it. Unless, Big B being that Vikings fan, he said he was kind of 50-50 about it anyways. He wasn't really sure exactly how it was going to go. But everybody was talking about it because everybody came out and said, you know what? Jim Harbaugh is going to sign with the Vikings to be head coach of the Vikings. So everybody was saying, go ahead and welcome him in. And then today he kind of did the whole flip-flop thing to where he then called Michigan and said, you know what? I'm actually going to come back to Michigan. I'm not going to actually join and be a head coach in the NFL. So a lot of people are actually saying that, Harbaugh did this as a way to leverage Michigan, but there was no talk out there that Michigan offered him more money. There was nothing about that. So whether it was actually for leverage or not, I don't know. So, Big B, with you being the Vikings fan, you can give me your thoughts on Jim Harbaugh passing up Minnesota and basically passing up any NFL team and staying at Michigan.
First off, like you said, I was 50-50. I think the people I talked to here, friends, they were kind of 50-50 on it. He was in a no-lose situation. He still had his job in Michigan, so if he took the job here in Minnesota, we would have to buy out his contract. So, just like my bosses have told me in the past, if you think you got a better opportunity, go interview for it and then come back and we'll talk. It was even in the movie Moneyball. Billy Bean went and interviewed, and then he went back to his old team. And they asked why. He goes, it was Boston. Why wouldn't I go interview? So I've heard rumors, saw reports that he asked Oakland, I think, for 10 years, $100 million. So I think that was the kind of scary. So I don't know if Minnesota came even close to that, but Harbaugh, why wouldn't he come in and fly into Minnesota, get a dinner, room for free? You talk the job, I don't know what the contract stipulation was, the offer was. So, I was surprised they even brought him in, because he did a lot in Michigan last year, and I thought for sure he wasn't even going to interview for jobs because of what he did last year. So I think O'Connell now is the front runner for the Rams, so we won't get him until after the Super Bowl, so 2 weeks, unless somebody emerges between now and then. it sounds like it's O'Connell's job to lose, and they said that same about Harbaugh. If he's offered the job, he's going to sign. That's all I heard, and it's just like, well, I would think, yeah, the job's his, but if Minnesota doesn't give him what he wants, he's going to go back to Michigan, and that's what happened.
Yeah, that's what everybody was saying.
Yeah.
If they offer it to Harbaugh, he's going to sign. People were kind of jumping a little bit of ahead. That's kind of what they were doing. They were jumping ahead, expecting him to actually just come out and sign. Now, however, I knew that the Raiders were not going to make that mistake again because they made that mistake with Gruden by giving him a 10-year, $100 million deal. So you knew they were not going to make that same mistake twice. You knew that. You knew
I mean,
that was not going to happen.
If anything, I'd offer him 5 for, $50 million, 10-year deal or 10-year mill and see what happens after that. And I know Isaiah's not with us right now, but to come out and say that, Harbaugh teased Minnesota, tricked them, it's like, no, he did what any professional would do if somebody's interested in their service. Go interview. If the job's right, take the offer. Harbaugh said that he's interested in the Minnesota job. He just felt I'd go back to Michigan. So we'll see where it goes. But I think Minnesota kind of made the right move, and let's go with the young guy. That's what a lot of people want. They want the young coach to pair up with the young quarterback, which, granted, yeah, we got Cousins, but, we got Mond in the background. So we'll see what it's going to look like once this coaching carousel settles down.
All right, so I'll turn this over to James. James, what's your thoughts on Harbaugh returning to Michigan and turning down NFL teams?
And then, by the way, the other Minnesota Viking head coach candidate is DeMeco Ryans, the defensive coordinator for San Francisco. That could be in the works too.
He rejected his second interview.
He
rejected his second interview, right?
Yeah. After his second interview, he pulled his name.
Yeah. I must have false news here. Okay. Because there was Kevin O'Connell and then him. I was thinking, that'd be cool. But yeah, I think they'll go Kevin O'Connell for the Vikings. But with Jim Harbaugh, I'm thinking he's not ready yet to go back to the NFL. He feels safe at home, which is, Michigan University. I don't think he's ready to go back. I think the 49ers kind of scarred him in a way. He wants more control of things within the team. So I just don't see him getting to the NFL. Maybe, Michigan's not slated to be one of the best teams next year in college football. If he has a real poor year, this might be really bad for him. But if he has another great year, he might get interest again. But to me, it seemed like once they beat Ohio State, Jim Harbaugh, and they had that great celebration in the house, that felt like the end of things. Like, we finally beat our rival after, 5 tries. And it felt like nothing else mattered. Like, he could leave, no problem. So it's weird. And then I also heard, a good friend told me this, all of his assistants at Michigan went and left and went and got other jobs. Is that right?
Yeah, so pretty much they actually went, left, got other jobs.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
But technically, he supposedly upgraded because he went out and got a different scout and everything else. So,
okay.
So that's what. So it sounds to me like, James, you're not really surprised, and Big B's
I'm not surprised.
Really surprised. No. And so, Crispy Bacon, I know when it comes to you even said before this happened, you thought he was going to return to Michigan. You kept saying, I think he's going to stay at Michigan.
Yeah, I felt like he was, because I don't know if his contract was up, or I don't know how all that works, but maybe he was using the NFL as kind of leverage and telling Michigan, hey, I'm just going to test things out, maybe get a job in the NFL. And then they're like, oh, we don't want that. We don't want you to go back to the NFL here. We'll give you, I don't know, X amount of money, this amount of years if you come back, and maybe throw in some other stuff. And he's like, okay, well, that kind of sounds good. So, I mean, there's some incentive to looking around in other places to get maybe a raise or something.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me when it came to him staying in Michigan was because he was right on the cusp. You know, he got to that. He got to the playoffs. He got where he wanted to. He was that close to making it to the national championship game. So I think he really wants to come back now and see if he can do it, and see if he
And
can actually elevate this team to a national championship game. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but he's right on the cusp. Like he's that close.
he also got over the hurdle of beating Ohio State. And I think that's what saved his job.
Oh yeah, that definitely saved his job.
I think he would have been,
Anybody in Michigan, if you don't beat Ohio State, you ain't lasting long.
and I think he would have been in Minnesota or somebody else's head coach, but because he beat Ohio State, I think Michigan was looking at that like, you did something we kind of didn't think you would do. We were hoping you would, but
What are you talking about? Oh, we're
beating Ohio State.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been one of the things that I'm not gonna lie. He has struggled with for a very, very long time. But most teams struggle with beating Ohio State because they're like one of those dominant teams like Alabama. So once he got past that cusp, he's like, hey, I'm there. So why not stay and see if I can get it? And you know what? Maybe he might make it to that national championship. I don't think he will, but maybe he found something.
Yeah.
He did have a lot of players leave, though.
Yeah. And it looks like he signed through 2024.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. And then he has the option for 2025.
Yeah.
And he has some bonuses coming in, too. He gets $4 million a year.
Yep.
He could definitely get more than that in the NFL. But like I said, for me, I just don't think he's ready to go back. He's home.
Yeah, and you could be right. Like he could have been scared from after the first time, or you know the way things went down in San Fran. He might not be too kosher with it or be comfortable. I'm not saying for sure, but it definitely could have been something like that could have happened. So he could be very, very scared to actually return now.
I think it's. I mean, I agree with James. I think Ace. I think he's not ready per se, but if the offer was what he wanted, I think he would have taken the job.
Yeah. Well, like you said, if it would have been like a 10-year deal or something like that,
and maybe they're and the big talk lately is what are we going to do with Kirk Cousins? So that could have played a factor that maybe he was more in wanting Cousins out, or maybe he wanted Cousins to stay. And the Wolves are like, well, we kind of want to see what we can get for him, So, we don't know. We weren't there. Best of luck to him in Michigan, and best of luck to Minnesota and whoever they decide to get for their coaching.
Yep, it'll scare him off.
Well.
No, I'm just kidding. It won't scare him off. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our next topic, which is we all know, there's been a lot of talks right now on whether the MLB and the MLBPA will actually be able to reach an agreement. We know last time they met that there was actually a heated argument going on. It got pretty heated. They're not anywhere closer to actually coming to an agreement at this point. So, James, I'll start out with you. Because they're not any closer to that agreement, are you starting to get concerned that, the start of baseball season might be on hold here? There may not be – we might end up missing some games because they're not any closer.
And which I don't mind anyway. First of all, I just think there's too many games in the season anyway. I would love if it went from 162 to 154, but I know, both sides don't want to do that. Anyway, the current lockout right now, which is a week away from likely disrupting spring training. That's the first part. If we continue to get deeper into February, then you start worrying about, the opening day, which is, I think, April 7th. I can't remember, but they kind of moved it up. It used to be always in April, first week of April. Mm-hmm. And then they moved it back to, March 30th, 31st. Well, luckily they moved it, up. So just in case there was any disputes or whatnot going into the season. Anyway, the main thing that I'm reading about is the significant battle left to wage over the league's current attempt to spend and overspend. Those teams that spend so much that are allowed to, the other owners are trying to stop that. The Pirates, the Marlins. I'm trying to think of other teams.
The A's.
Yeah, definitely the A's too. They're trying to get a hold of whatever they can, but they can't spend like the New York teams, like the LA teams, well, Anaheim, but like Chicago. So this is a definite point that both the two sides are getting into. And I'm always worried about both sides having the ego. You have Rob Manfred that has a history in law, so he's going to get to every point. And then you have Tony Clark. I never met the guy, or I've heard him talk before, but he seems strong-willed and won't give up, and that's what the players like to have. But it's contentious, and there's a big fight. And I think spring training will have an issue. I think they will not be starting spring training right away. And it's unfortunate because Chrissy just said it's depressing. Well, the season hasn't even started yet. And I came into a mind frame when this whole thing started where I said, hey, they're not going to meet, at the end of December because everybody's going to be off with their families. They're not going to meet in January because there's New Year's. And everybody else is going to do whatever, then they'll start talking. Mm-hmm. I came into a mind frame where, like, hey, they're not going to get anything done until end of February, March, if they do. So, to me, it doesn't seem like anything's going to be on time. Everything's going to be delayed a little bit. We'll have November baseball, of course. How far in November, we'll see. It depends on these next 2 to 3 weeks. If these talks get toxic, it doesn't look good for MLB.
Yeah, but the one thing I will agree with is I completely agree with the rule that there should be a salary cap like the NFL, and you should not be allowed to go over that salary cap. It's going to definitely level the playing field for all the teams that are out there, because you do have teams like the A's and the Pirates and the Orioles and teams like that who cannot afford to pay all these big-time players to bring them in. And so you do have to kind of find a way to level that. And even the Rays, even though the Rays still stay good and they still stay competitive, they could even do better. They could probably get over that hump if it was a more level of a playing field. And I really think it does, because I think after a while, everybody gets sick and tired every year of when a big name is out there, they go, oh, they might sign with the Yankees. Oh, they might sign with the Dodgers. Oh, they might. And it's like, well, yeah, no duh, because number one, it's the Yankees. Number two, it's the Dodgers, and they both have money. So if they want to sign anybody, they're going to sign them, or they're going to trade for them. And that's
another thing, too, that they want a soft cap. Well, the players don't want it, but the owners want it. And I think that's the best way to go about it. And then you were talking about the Rays. Well, they need a market that loves them. St. Petersburg doesn't love them, and Tampa's too far away, and it's horrible getting there. From what I realized, there's like 2 ways, and it takes like 40 minutes from the city of Tampa, where that real fan base is. They need to get a ballpark done. I know their lease is until like 2028, but nothing's been going on, and they tried to go to Montreal, play half of the season there, half in St. Petersburg, but it sucks though the way that the Rays have to trade everybody after service time is up. I know that was another thing in the deal where instead of extending service time, the owners want that. The players want less service time so they could get more contracts out of a career. So it's really a mess all over.
Oh yeah, definitely. All right, Crispy Bacon, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, it is depressing. We're getting we're getting close to the season starting, a couple months away, and the two sides aren't talking, or they're trying to talk, but nothing's getting worked out. They need to find some common ground, before something happens. And the weird thing is about all of this is, I think they said minor league seasons are going to start on time, but in players can play with those teams until then. But for right now, MLB is locked out, and hopefully they get a deal done.
All right, Big B.
Me, the baseball guy. These guys are like, miles apart. I mean, James, I think you hit on every great point. Ace, you said the cap. Yeah, baseball needs a cap, and the thing is who signs these players to these massive deals? The owners. The owners are the ones to I think personally blame for this lockout because you got the small market teams that definitely can't pay. The Twins, the Tiger, Tampa Bay. I mean, we named them already. They can't hang with these big market teams, and they do need a cap. I think all of us have been saying it for years. They need the cap. They need the cap.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, March 31st, we're just under 2 months away from opening day. I think 2 weeks away. I think Valentine's Day is typically
Pitchers and catchers.
Pitchers and catchers report. I'm getting worried. I'm a big baseball guy. The closer it gets to that pitchers and catchers, that's just going to push the season back. And James, you said it too, and I don't get what the significance of 154 is 154 for the baseball season. What does 8 games got to do with it? If they want to drop it to 150, 145, or bring back the double headers on Sundays here and there to get 162 in. But I'm getting worried. I'm not hitting the panic button yet, but I'm there. It's sitting right next to me, so once that day hits, I'll start panicking that we're going to start losing games. As long as we don't get the COVID season where we only play like 54 games,
Right?
I'll be fine. If we got to play 120 some games for me to make it count as a regular season. Chrissy says 145 is reasonable. Yeah, I think that's still a decent season. And like I said, if you want more games, let's play doubleheaders on Sundays like we used to. Let's go back to the old school style. Even if it's 7 innings, 7-inning doubleheaders. Okay, I'll take it on Sunday. That Chris, you said it right there. That's the key word right now. Pee Wee's Playhouse just have a word of the day. Compromise is what MLB needs.
Right? They don't have it.
No, they don't.
No.
Somebody said too many egos, and that's exactly what.
Yeah.
That's what's going on. Everybody's egos in check, and sooner or later somebody's going to have to crack. And I don't see anybody budging right now.
Can I mention a couple of things? By the way, about this. It's unfortunate, back then those double headers, I wasn't around for them, but I heard they were great for fans. Of course, the players nowadays would never agree to that because they don't want to play 2 games on one day. There's no more Cal Ripken Juniors out there that want to play every game in one season. And that's unfortunate. That hard work mentality is gone because of all the money that's given out. And then all the rehab of certain players. If I need a day off, I can't play games in a row. That's in my contract. There's all sorts of that stuff going on in the MLB, probably in all sports too, especially NBA. But I didn't mind those 7-inning doubleheaders. I had people, the historians of the game, the people that say, "Hey, leave my game alone," no fun and all that stuff. I'll say, hey, 7-inning doubleheaders, that appeals to the younger crowd because that'll keep them at the ballpark. You have all these lounges, all these beer bars and whatnot. I think that'd be cool, having two games in a row, and they don't take so long. and all this goes down to baseball. I think Colin was saying, baseball won't be around in 50 years because it'll just be something irrelevant. But I think 7-inning doubleheaders and appealing to a younger crowd, that'll help the game so much. I mean, I like baseball like it is. Like I said, I hope they lessen the games. And the reason I only have 8 less games than 162 is because you're not going to have people say that's cool because they want more games or they want less games. You got to find an in between.
Well, yeah.
But you have those
that's what I said.
traditionalists.
But you're not the first one, James. You're not the first one to throw out that number too. I mean, some analysts are throwing it out, and I'm just like, what does 8 games matter?
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll tell you this:
it's not an even number.
Yeah,
because there's so many games in September, and I'll speak on my team for sure, the Angels. There's games in September that don't mean anything, and they have to be played. And there's no more September call-ups. You remember when they would have 40 in the dugout? Now they only bring up, 28 or 27-man roster, 26?
Yeah.
So you don't get that future look now of players. You only get a couple. So, if they had that 40-man roster, okay, I'm cool with those September calls because you can see what they can do. But since you can't bring up all those guys from the minor leagues whose season just ended, there's no point to play those games, honestly. If you're out by, 20, 30 games, like the Angels have been, there's no point.
And I'm right there with you.
Well, the thing is let's go until, September? What's the last day of September? 30th? That's the end of the baseball season. Let's do playoffs in October and stop with these November playoffs.
Yeah.
Because here in Minnesota, granted, Twins haven't been in the World Series since '91, it's going to snow. So, I mean, I love playing baseball too, but I don't think I'd play it in -3 degrees and snowing.
Right there. All right. So I think at some point we're going to all get a little bit worried about the MLB and the MLBPA if they don't meet. We're not ready to hit the panic button yet, but we're definitely getting there.
It's close.
So it's close. We're definitely getting there. Yeah. So we can go ahead and jump into our next topic. And the reason I brought this topic up was because this is kind of always a topic of debate. Because whenever you hear somebody be like, oh, you know what, this guy is really good, this guy should be in the Hall of Fame, blah, blah, they always go off of, oh, how many rings does this individual have? So they always go, you know what, if this person has a ring, they're good. Okay, so you're telling me a guy like Jared Lorenzen that was a backup quarterback for Eli Manning that has 2 rings, you're telling me that guy should be a Hall of Famer because he has 2 rings. So his level of greatness is there because he has 2 rings as a backup for Eli Manning. So you're telling me because Brad Johnson and Trent Dilfer both have 1 ring that they should be Hall of Famers too? Absolutely not. So to me, should greatness be based off of championships? Well, I'll give you my honest opinion and say, no, it should not be. And simply because people put in too much to players be like, oh, well, this guy won this. Or no. How about it takes a whole team to win a championship? It does. You might have that one guy that can lead you there, but you're probably not going to win it because it takes the whole team to win a championship. And that's the thing. So a lot of guys get credit for it because like, oh, this guy won it. Well, really, did he though? Because it really is a whole team. And so, Big B, you've been with me on this forever because we've always said championships are not what makes you great. No. That is not what makes you great. Because you could be on the worst team in the league, never make a World Series, never make a Super Bowl, never make an NBA championship because of the team you're on, and people go, they shouldn't be in the Hall of Fame because they don't have a championship. And I'm like, that's blasphemous because then you're telling me that Dan Marino should not be a Hall of Famer because Dan Marino has 0 rings. So with me, no, that definitely should not make it a measure of greatness. There's people who are in the Hall of Fame now that have maybe 1 or multiple rings. that should not even be in there when you look at their career stats. It's not even close to Hall of Fame worthy. Number 1, Joe Namath. Joe Namath's Hall of Fame numbers, they're ridiculous, man. They're horrible. They're horrendous.
All I can think of why Joe Namath is in, because he had the most important win in the AFL history, the Super Bowl III win.
Well, yeah.
And because he was in New York. That was the only two reasons, really.
Well, yeah, because, Joe Namath is obviously the best quarterback the Jets have ever had, pretty much. Besides, well, unless you're going to throw in like maybe Chad Pennington or something
Ken
like
O'Brien.
that. Yeah, but other than that, there's not much. I'm not going to go into a true discussion of, and Chris knows where I'm going with this. This is his favorite team. I've always been a true believer that this individual does not belong in the Hall of Fame, regardless of his rings.
Roll your eyes, Chris.
You can roll your eyes, Chris. You don't have to agree with me on that or not. But it doesn't matter to me that Troy Aikman has 3 rings.
Oh.
The dude was surrounded by freaking Hall of Famers. James like, oh.
What are you supposed to do, though? Like, not throw passes, not hand the ball off? It's like he's just there. He happened to be on a good team.
I get
Minnesota gave it to him.
Because I get what he's saying, because he already had players surrounding him that were already locks for the Hall of Fame.
He did. So James, let me ask you this. Career numbers for Troy Aikman. 165 touchdowns to 144 interceptions with a career completion percentage of 63% and 34,000 yards. You're telling me that those are Hall of Fame numbers?
Well, it goes against my argument, with rings. Where I say, well, he won 3 times. He's a champion. He's a winner. For that, you get in the Hall of Fame. But damn, I'm thinking to myself, well, that doesn't sound right, because he's not better than Dan Marino. He's not better than Dan Fouts. He's not better than, others who didn't win the championship. So it goes both ways, this argument, just because they win. Just because they win.
What was his stats there, Ace?
165 touchdowns, 144 interceptions, 63% career completion percentage, and 34,000 yards.
All right.
Tony Romo as a Cowboy, 248 career touchdowns, 127 interceptions, 39,000 passing yards.
Okay. So here's
0 rings.
Here's what I'm looking at. I just pulled up NFL Quarterback Hall of Famers reference page. So the average, the quarterbacks in the Hall of Fame, this is the average numbers. So completions, 3,143. Attempts, 5,302. Just shy of 40,000 passing yards. 268 touchdowns, 90 interceptions. I'm sorry. 298 touchdowns, 200 interceptions, and being sacked 358 times. I don't have a completion percentage, but we could figure that out. So that's the average of the quarterbacks that are in the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, you can base it on that. Aikman's not in.
But also for the sake of the argument, which, I don't believe it in either, but let's just say, yes, it counts on rings. You would have 2 quarterbacks, that are Hall of Famers with, a lot of rings. That would be Tom Brady and Bart Starr. They each have 7. Yeah, Bart Starr has 2, Super Bowl wins, and the rest are
5
NFL championships. Yeah. But they both have 7 titles.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going off of that, those are the only 2 quarterbacks you could put in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's my point. Like, so it's so hard to tell anybody that you have to base greatness off of rings, because I just think that it's so hard to do because of the different eras of sports, the different eras of any sports, and the different teams you play on. So that, for me, which is why this has always been a big discussion when even people talk about, oh, you know what, the GOAT topic, the Hall of Fame worthy. I hate those discussions because people talk about, rings. Nah, not rings. It's not that.
He may be Hall of Fame in other ways, but not based on rings. No.
Exactly. So,
So here you go. Here, I'll throw out a stat. You tell me if this guy's a Hall of Fame quarterback. 4,000, or let me see, almost 50,000 passing yards. He's 5 short. 323 touchdowns and 161 interceptions. Should he be a Hall of Fame over Troy Aikman?
yeah.
His passing percentage is, that's Matthew Stafford.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Because Stafford is a way underrated. He's a way underrated quarterback. He's always been underrated. But
I.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was going to say, but whether he wins or lose the Super Bowl, I think getting there helps his chances.
No, it does.
Yep.
But the problem is this: you can even look back at the 3 quarterbacks that will potentially be. So there's 3 quarterbacks from the same class that you can talk about. You could talk about Roethlisberger, Rivers, and Eli Manning, and the same draft class. Okay, when they talk about it, they're gonna be like, Manning's in and Roethlisberger's in because they have 2 rings. Phillip Rivers should technically be in because of numbers, but they're gonna look at that and be like, nah, I don't think so, because Manning and Roethlisberger are gonna be in because of championships, and that's my problem. That's why the system is broken, because they're too focused on championships and not overall numbers.
And I would take Rivers out of Ben and Eli and Phillip. I would take Rivers all day.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely. To me, and I might get, and people might come after me about this, but I've always said that Rivers is a better quarterback than Eli Manning was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Looking at the stats here, Rivers and Roethlisberger are like identical. The only thing separating them is the rings. I mean,
they're tied on rings. They're tied on rings.
Rivers and Roethlisberger are not.
Okay.
No, and they're like literally, about 1,000 yards apart in passing.
It's close.
Rivers has a beaten touchdowns. Roethlisberger has 2 more picks than he does. But I mean, just overall the board, they're close. So, if you're going to separate it by rings, Roethlisberger gets in, Rivers doesn't. But it shouldn't be like that.
No, it shouldn't be. And the only reason I'm saying that is because typically in a draft class, you're going to have 2 quarterbacks that get in. Oh. If there's 2 that get in, if there's 3 that are going for it, typically 2 will get in. And guess who's going to be left out? Rivers, because they're going to look at the championships.
Well, but now you also got to look at it now too, that Roethlisberger has to go up when he's up for the Hall of Fame. He's got to go up against Brady.
Well, yeah.
But when's the last time 2 quarterbacks got in the same Hall of Fame class?
They don't.
But Roethlisberger, I think, will still get in. I'm
not arguing that.
I still think he'll get. So to answer Christy Wilson's question, she says, "Is Drew Brees a Hall of Famer?" Oh, without question.
Yeah.
Even if Drew Brees doesn't win a ring, he's still a Hall of Famer. That dude, without a shadow of a doubt, is a Hall of Famer, hands down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you take out the playing career in the Super Bowl, I mean, he restored New Orleans pretty much. He helped bring that city together. And that's why I was talking about other things you can look at other than the numbers, other than the rings. You can see what they've done for the community, what they've done outside of their football career.
Is Isaiah still with us, or did he freeze? I think
it looks like he's froze right now.
Yeah.
I mean, just looking at this. Oh, excuse me. People in the Hall of Fame with no rings. I mean, Marino, Moon, Tarkington.
Well, yeah, because how could...
Fouts.
Well, I know the difference though with Tarkington is Tarkington was to 4 of them. He went to 4 of them.
Kelly,
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, Kelly went to 4
Yeah,
straight. I mean,
and Kelly went to 4. I know they lost them all, but they went to 4.
Mm-hmm.
so
But
I mean, it's a big
It's just
debate.
harder
I
to
mean,
get it.
it is a big argument. So, James, we kind of heard a little bit from you, but not too much on the topic. So, would you agree with us that it should not be based off of championships?
Yeah, it shouldn't be, but in like Troy Aikman's case, what just happened to be there on a good team and a popular team. But it does, kill me when that argument comes up, and guys like Dan Fouts, Philip Rivers, don't get in because or don't have
the ring.
the rings. Yeah, don't have the rings, so they get pushed aside. So that really sucks. But they were great, and it shouldn't come down to rings. It should come down to moments and great moments and plays they've had as well. There's a lot of sports like that. You could think of MLB. You think of Tony Gwynn. You think of Ted Williams. You think of guys that didn't win championships but were awesome, and they got in the Hall of Fame no problem. But I wish that was the case in the NFL where, and it kind of is. I mean, you saw Drew Pearson get in after a while. That made
For
me,
a long while.
yeah, that made me want, speaking of Raiders, I want Ken Stabler in. He had a great winning percentage with John Madden. Jim Plunkett won 2 Super Bowls. He didn't have a great career, definitely not the first part of his career, but he revitalized himself with the Raiders. So those are 2 quarterbacks I really want in at some point. But when I think about this topic, the NBA comes up, and in the 90s, right? Michael Jordan, won 6 out of the 8 or 9 in those years.
Mm-hmm.
So you had great players like John Stockton, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Grant Hill, all never win because of Michael Jordan or Hakeem Olajuwon. That doesn't mean that they're not great. They get teased about it all the time. They're always a question in somebody's quiz. But I love all those players. And it doesn't occur to me that they didn't win a ring, because I remember what they did on the court. And I remember, how they had playoff success. They didn't suck in any of the years that they played. Well, maybe Charles at the end and Patrick Ewing was hurt. But so I love story. I hate debates like this, but I love stories that don't involve the rings, because I always hated the teams that win all the time and then they look down at you and say, well, you don't have that many. I hate how the Yankee fans are, the Laker fans are. The Cowboys, they've suffered 26 years. So I really don't have much hatred for them anymore. But like 49er fans as well, they'll remind you of the rings and all that. But I kind of hate that argument. So I enjoy greatness wherever it comes from. And if you don't win, well, at least you left your mark on the game, on the games that you've played. So I really enjoy that aspect of it.
See, no, James, you make great points. One thing with baseball that I like is they got like the magic numbers. 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, 300 wins, 5,000 Ks. If you hit those numbers, you're in the Hall of Fame. Now that's kind of adjusted now since analytics have played, and now the pitchers don't get that. I don't think there's a pitcher that's close to 300 wins.
Nope.
To me, my favorite player of all time is Kirby Puckett. I don't really think he had a Hall of Fame career.
Right.
He was not paid for a Hall of Fame career. Got shortened with his eye injury.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the 2 rings got him into the Hall of Fame, plus what he did outside of the game of baseball. So I mean, there's a lot of factors that could be in play. I wish more sports were like baseball, where they had those magic numbers to reach.
Oh, absolutely.
And then I think the debate would go away, because typically we don't debate this in baseball because it's like, oh, he had 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, he's in. Pitcher had 300 wins, he's in. Every other sport is based on, how many championships they got. That's kind of the base of it.
Mm-hmm.
So Chipper Jones, Hall of Famer, doesn't have a ring.
He has
one.
one.
That's right. They do have one. He did
Yeah.
He did get
He
one.
has
That's
They
right.
have one.
That's right.
Should have had many more though.
Oh yeah.
Should've.
That whole team should be in the Hall of Fame.
Exactly.
Well, yeah, but James,
I agree.
it's like you're talking about certain sports. You think about baseball, and you being Angels fan. So
Yikes.
one of the I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying one of the greatest outfielders in baseball is Mike Trout. Mike Trout has 0 rings, and
Right.
so
0 playoff wins too.
So so if Mike Trout retires, with 0 rings, does Mike Trout get in the Hall of Fame?
He does because of his numbers, even on the years that the Angels were way out of it.
Exactly, and that's what I'm trying to say is that so it should not be based off of championships. It should be based off of numbers. Mike Trout is a guy. Mike Trout is a guy who would definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame, but he has 0 rings.
#, free Mike Trout.
Free Mike Trout. Hey,
hey James, since you're an Angels fan, can you tell Isaiah that Ohtani is the face of baseball?
Literally.
Ohtani is the face of baseball, and the show cover.
Yeah,
That's what I said.
Video
There
game.
you go.
All right, Isaiah,
Worldwide.
we haven't heard from you yet on this topic.
Thank God.
I know. You tell me, should greatness be measured by championships?
Greatness should absolutely not be measured by championships, and I don't like how our society these days just judge everything. Every single debate has got to come down to championships. Like I was telling John the other day, why can't we just enjoy greatness without having to say, oh, this guy, let's see, how many rings did he win? How many rings did he win this? And judge the guy based on that. Like it's never made sense to me why we don't judge a guy based on his numbers, why we always judge a guy based on his numbers. When winning a championship is a team's, sports is like football, basketball, baseball is a team sport. So if your team is not that good, you could put up the best numbers, but you're not going to win the championship because your team is not that good. So I don't think that we should judge a player how great he is based on how many rings that he won. Maybe like if it's a very close debate, like if you're debating this player versus that player and the numbers are really close, maybe then you can, judge him based on championships. But I don't think you should be able to judge a player based on like how great he is based on a championship.
You know what? And I'm glad that you agree with us. This is the first time that we're like, wow, Isaiah's feeling actually okay because he actually came on here and agreed with everyone for once. We were expecting you to come on. We were seriously expecting you to come on and be like, yeah, greatness is about championships. But we're glad that you're not
Well,
saying
that's why I think Montana's the GOAT, but we're not going to talk about that.
Oh,
No, I wouldn't recommend doing that.
You are so full of it, Isaiah.
Oh my gosh.
Jeez.
We don't need to have this GOAT conversation here, Isaiah.
No, absolutely not.
Because you know how far that GOAT conversation goes with me.
It has
It's
to
going to be
go
a
by
very good
eras.
debate, that's for sure.
Has to go by eras.
Exactly.
Right.
Whenever anybody mentions anything about the true GOAT, I say put GOAT of era after it. Put
Or
GOAT
one
of
true
era.
GOAT, and we can prove that by taking Wayne Gretzky.
Or you
Because-
can say he was the greatest of my lifetime. He's the greatest
My
that I've
generation.
seen. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, you can say generation,
Yep.
you can say era, but you cannot say greatest of all time because of the simple fact of the different eras that there was.
Yeah.
Because then you're completely disrespecting all the other quarterbacks that have been out there. Think about Otto Graham. Otto Graham, when he was a quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, I think he won like five championships as a Cleveland Brown
Cool.
before Super Bowls were there.
Right.
And so, but nobody talks about that. because they were championships. They weren't Super Bowls.
No.
Wait, Cleveland was good?
They,
No, I know.
Yes, they were at one
when
point.
Otto Graham was there, yes, that was the only time that they were
The
They had
Cowboys
Jim
won the
Brown.
championship.
Damn. You won
So,
5 championships
Christy,
in a row?
do you agree that championships are not championships, but that greatness should depend on not championships, but what you can do overall?
Definitely, greatness should be, you judge it based on what they've achieved. So, like, I think there's a lot of people I think that should be in the Hall of Fame who probably will not because they didn't win championships. I mean, I think I said it in the comments. I put Tony Romo in there. I mean, he should have won a Super Bowl, but he didn't. But I think he should be in the Hall of Fame based on his numbers and what he did in Dallas. So
The greatest,
just me.
I've always said, as Tony Romo, one of the greatest undrafted quarterbacks
Exactly.
that there was, because Tony Romo was undrafted. So
Mhm.
the numbers that Tony Romo put up, nobody expected him to do that because he was
No.
undrafted.
Yep, he wasn't expected to be as successful as he was.
Why
But-
am I always shocked when I hear that Tony Romo was undrafted?
Huh?
I said every time I hear that Tony Romo was undrafted, I'm like shocked. Like it's the first time I've ever heard that.
Well,
Well,
was.
because a lot of people, when you look at Tony Romo, a lot of people would not expect him to be undrafted.
mhm.
Well,
Because
no,
he
that's what I'm
wasn't,
saying.
yeah, because he wasn't supposed to be undrafted. He just never got drafted.
Yeah,
And-
he was not even
He
supposed to
played
make
really-
it to
I
where
mean-
he made it to.
I never saw him in college, but he played really well in college, Eastern Illinois, and
Yeah,
where Sean Payton went to school actually.
yeah, he played well in college. He played well in college, and then his first, like 3 years in Dallas, he
No.
never really threw a pass. His first 3 years
Except
in
in
Dallas.
preseason,
It-
but that doesn't.
But then he started mid game, like after halftime against the Giants.
Yeah,
2006,
he took
and
over
then-
for guess who? Drew Bledsoe.
Bledsoe.
Yeah,
Like
Drew
Tom
Bledsoe.
Brady.
Yeah, Drew Bledsoe. Okay,
Yeah.
so we
Drew
can go
Bledsoe.
ahead and move on to our next topic, which
Okay.
is should sports get rid of conferences? This has actually been a debate for a while because people talk about, you have these conferences, but people say, what if you put them in one conference and then you say the top, 8 teams or whatever make the playoffs, or how many ever teams. So you put them all in one and then you say the best teams make it. So people have been talking about, should they get rid of the conferences? Big B, I'll start with you.
Man, God, it's tough. I can see why people would say yes, but then like football, you go make the schedule. Are you still going to have the Packers, Bears, Packers, Vikings, Bears, Vikings? I mean, are you still going to have those two home and home rivalries going at it, or are they just going to play everybody once? And I don't know. It's tough. I would say no. I think we need to get the conference play there, or the divisions played, I guess, in some sports. I mean, I do think the best teams, no matter what division they're in, should get into the playoffs. I mean, if we got 7 teams and 4 of them come out of the same division, then hey, those are the best teams. Let's roll. So I go against breaking up the divisions and conferences and making it just one big system. I think you need to keep it split.
Well, yeah, because this is all stemmed from, you had 2 teams that at one point had made the playoffs with losing records, and then you had
Dallas,
2 teams that
Washington, yeah.
Yep.
and then you had teams well, you got to remember Seattle back
Yep.
then when they made it,
Oh.
and then Washington made it, and then there
Mhm.
was a big debate whether or not they're like, okay, now you had a 10-6, 11-5 team that was left out because under 500 team made it because of winning your division. So people were like, is that actually right? Should that actually happen, or should the best teams just actually make it whether or not you win division or not? And so that's kind of been a debate for a while. So Chris, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think Big B can attest to this too, but like the WNBA, don't they have conferences, but yet it's overall standings
Yes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
overall
Yeah.
standing.
as far
Yeah,
as
it's
But
it's
they're
overall.
also there's also what 12 WNBA teams, 14.
Yeah, 12.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they still
But you
go
could do it-
overall standings.
right, but yet they still play conference play and,
Yep.
and all that. So
Yes, they do.
I think you can, kind of for the playoff
What we
portion.
got going on here?
I think James might be having some internet problems.
Yeah.
Probably
Yeah, I
He
think
cloned
so.
himself.
he cloned himself.
Yeah, at least it's not Isaiah cloning himself.
Oh, thank God.
But I
Thank you
think
for giving me an
you can
idea.
remove
Oh,
you can
no.
remove the conferences. I think
Mm-mm.
and just use overall.
All right. Isaiah, how about you? Do you think they should remove the conferences?
No, because first of all, you would mess up rivalry games, and also you would also like example in the NFL. If you got rid of the NFC and then the AFC, and you just did 1 through 32. So are we playing a 31 game schedule now? Is that what we're doing here? Or what are we doing? Like, it's just going to be so weird how to determine like who is in the playoffs and all of that stuff. So I think some sports, like maybe the NBA, you could, because I mean, in the NBA, we don't even look at the divisions. We practically don't really even look at the conferences anymore. So I think for some sports you could, but I think for like the NFL in general, as James clones himself again, I think like the NFL, obviously you can't, but I think the NBA you probably could. MLB, not so much. But hey, I would be in favor of it because that means my teams would get more of a chance to make the playoffs for sure.
Or we can play FIFA rules and just have pool play. I mean,
Yeah, that's that people.
All right, Christy, how about you?
I think in terms of the NFL, I would just keep it the way it is because you have all these rivalry games. Like these rivalries go back such a long time. Like Packers, Vikings, Washington, Dallas. I don't even want to say what Washington's new name is. It's stupid in my opinion.
Yes.
So stupid. But I think in terms of the NBA, Isaiah's right about that. We don't look at the divisions, and it's all about top 8 teams in each conference going to the playoffs. But in the NFL, I just keep it how it is.
Hockey's the same way too. I don't think.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough though. It's tough because people feel like you could break it up and still be okay because you could still continue to have the
James keeps cloning himself.
You could keep divisions but have one conference still. But you could still keep the same division.
So, Asa, you proposed like the NFL to do the best 14 teams then?
I mean,
or are we talking 7 from each division?
It's not something that I'm proposing. I was just saying, something that they had talked about. That they're like, that if you had one conference, you could make it divisions in that conference, but the best 14 teams go.
Or are we going to do like Canadian rules and have a point for a win and
Canadian rules?
Canadian rules.
Canadian. Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump into our final topic, which is actually a little bit of a NHL here.
Oh.
Really simple topic. It's just because there's been people getting angry that NHL games are ending on penalty shots.
Really?
Yeah, and so people are saying, should a penalty shot actually decide an NHL game? Because when you think about it, I guess in the NFL, like a defensive pass interference could decide an NFL game or anything like that. So should a penalty shot decide an NHL game? So, Big B, what do you think? Do you think that a penalty shot should decide an NHL game?
Oh, man, that's tough because they used to just end in ties after one overtime, and people didn't like that. Now they went to penalty shots. People don't like that. I don't know. What do we do? Have a full-out Royal Rumble at the end of the overtime and last two standing wins? I mean, it just seems like whichever way we go, nobody's going to be happy. So I kind of like the penalty shots. I mean, overtime's what? 4-on-4, 5-on-5,
About
4-on-4.
But
4
It's
on
5
4,
out
I
of 5.
think.
It's 5.
Oh, 5-on-5. Sorry.
I thought it was 4-on-4. I thought they dropped a guy.
On
No.
what?
Overtime.
Oh, sorry, no. I thought you were talking about like the shootout and everything.
Oh.
No,
Sorry.
so they get more ice in overtime. So
Yeah. So it's 4-on-4. Yeah.
yeah, I say keep the shootout. It brings a little difference to the game because they don't do it in the playoffs, right? They just keep playing until someone wins, right?
Yeah, you keep playing until somebody wins. Yeah.
So that kind of defeats the purpose of the shootout in the regular season. But I don't know. Keep it the way it is. I mean, you're not going to make everybody happy.
right.
All right, Chris, how about you?
Yeah, I say keep it. I mean, it's part of the sport, and like Big B said, you're not going to please everybody, and I'm sure a lot of fans are tired of it, but it's still part of the rules, and it brings something different. I agree. So, I mean, keep it.
And I know I'm gonna regret this,
Oh,
but
God.
Isaiah,
Get ready.
and I know I'm gonna regret this.
So what? So this is for. Are we talking for the postseason as well, or are we just talking for the regular season?
We're talking about for everything in general.
I think for the postseason, you should definitely let them play on because to have penalty shots determine who wins the whatever that trophy is called. I don't even know what it's
Stanley
called.
Cup.
The Stanley Cup. That's
The
right.
Stanley Cup, yeah.
The Stanley Cup. I know it's a big trophy, but the Stanley
is.
Cup. To have that, to have penalty shots determine the Stanley Cup, whoever wins that, I think is utterly ridiculous. I think that they should just, play on, just play on when it comes to the playoffs. But in terms of the regular season, I mean, I think it could go both ways. Obviously there'll be fans that will be pissed off that they don't that they don't continue to play and go to the penalty shots because it's not real hockey. Like I know some people think that when it comes to I forgot what's that sport that does penalties, or it was football. Some people were suggesting like, hey, why don't after 5 overtimes in college football, why don't you just have a field goal kicking contest? And it's like utterly ridiculous because that's not true football. So I think that what they should do is, I think the National Hockey League should honestly just honestly keep it the way it is right now. You can have the penalty shots for right now, and then maybe in the postseason you can go and play your 8-on-8 or whatever hockey, or 10-on-10, or I don't know how many people are in hockey.
All right, mute his mic.
All right.
Hey, I did it.
You did it.
I talked
All right.
hockey. It's amazing.
You talked
Christy,
hockey.
your thoughts?
Me? Oh. Me?
Yeah.
Sorry, and I know a little more about hockey. I'm with Big B and I'm with Chris. It's part of the rules. Just not everyone's gonna be happy about it. Just let them. Doesn't matter.
All right, and James, you back?
Oh, please say you are.
Come on, James.
We're
Nope,
praying for you, buddy.
Oh man.
Oh man!
he's not back. He is not
God, his
back.
internet
Okay.
must be conking out
So-
on him or something.
So with that, that was our final topic tonight. So I know Isaiah, you kind of got to hop on a little late here, so I'll give you just a brief minute or so to touch on the topics that you briefly missed here. So the first one you missed is give me your thoughts, because, and I know Big B's gonna want to hear this because you already told him about it once. Because you said that he faked out the Vikings. So you get to give your takes on Jim Harbaugh deciding to go back to Michigan.
Don't look confused because I'll pull it right now.
I think I sent you a tweet there, Isaiah, about this. Sent you a link
What
to a
was
tweet
the
about
topic about Jim Harbaugh? Oh, about him spurning the Vikings.
it.
My thoughts on it was I was stunned. I was stunned. I thought that with everything that was being reported, that it was a foregone conclusion that he was going to the NFL and with the Vikings. And I said this last night on MI6's Wild Sports Talk show that we had, that if Jim Harbaugh went to the Vikings, the Minnesota Vikings would win a Super Bowl in 3 years, because that's how great of a coach Jim Harbaugh is. That's how great of a situation he's walking
No.
into. The division potentially could be wide open. I mean, it's a perfect place for him. But I think he tricked the Vikings, because everybody was reporting. He expressed so much interest to Vikings management and to their GM about how he was totally into going to Minnesota. And then all of a sudden, today when they fly him in there to wine and dine him and probably give him prime rib and some beer, or not beer, but some champagne or whatever to wine and dine him, he looks them into the face and he says that he's not interested. So
No.
That's
I don't honestly
why
think that's how it
I'm
happened.
saying
But go
that
ahead.
the Harbaugh tricked the Vikings, since he flat out bamboozled them. He flat out hoodwinked them with what he said. You tell them that you're interested, you make them pay a colossal amount of money to wine and dine you, and then you tell them at the table, "Oh, I'm not interested anymore. I'm going back to Michigan."
No,
Like, really?
he never said he wasn't interested. He even told Michigan that he's interested in the Minnesota job, that he just wants to come back to Michigan.
Yep.
So he did trickle. Like we talked earlier, Isaiah, if you're interested in another job, or somebody's interested in you at another company, it behalves you to, I know that's not the word I'm thinking of, but to go and interview with them, talk to them, see what it's like. If it's something you want to do, the offer's right, you're gonna jump ship. Something went wrong, and the reports are that he wanted 10 for $100 million. Not many teams are gonna pay that. So, he didn't trick Minnesota. He was smart. He came in, got wined and dined, and then he just made his decision to go back. Watch the movie Moneyball. You'll get what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
I
Moneyball is
experience
about your
Moneyball
Oakland
every year.
A's, Isaiah. So I would highly
Yeah,
recommend
Billy
checking it out.
Bean. He went to Boston because it was Boston. Why would you turn down an interview in Boston?
Yeah.
That's what he did here.
Okay.
You take
well,
the request, but
Yeah.
You
there's
don't have to accept the job.
Yep.
there's that for him. So, but I got to get James's take on our very last topic, since he was kind of going in and out. So, James, our final take in NHL was: should NHL do away with the penalty shots so a team can win a game? Should a team be allowed to win a game on a penalty shot?
I think so. There's many sports like soccer that does that. It's more theatrical when you think about it. All the eyes are on a penalty shot, and then after the regulation, they have after overtime. Then you have the penalty, or not the
Shootout?
I'm sorry, shootout. I don't know much about hockey, but
Okay.
I watch
You know
playoff
more
hockey.
than Isaiah.
I don't
I
either.
love playoff.
Don't worry about that.
I love playoff hockey. I think that's the purest form of sport is playoff hockey, especially when you get to games like the 6th and 7th game of series. I absolutely love it, but I can't tell you a lot of names. But they should keep it though. They should keep how it is.
Oh, God.
And I've said before, if hockey all year round was playoff hockey, it would be the number one sport in the USA.
All right, guys, I'm going to call it a
Hell
night.
yeah!
No, you're hanging on.
Stay here, Isaiah.
You're not going anywhere, Isaiah.
He's circling around here. I don't know what he's
Lurking.
He's spinning. Well, why we're spinning anyways, we'll go ahead and kind of give our final thoughts anyways. So, Big B, go ahead and tell me final thoughts for tonight.
Thanks for everybody that jumped on. Chrissy, James, Isaiah, Callan, if he ever gets here. Thanks for the comments.
he's
But
He's gone. Crap.
it's been a wild week for football. A lot of different news stories coming out, retirements,
Yep.
lawsuits,
Name
coaches not
changes.
coming here. But that's the way sports goes, and just keep checking out Coast to Coast and seeing all the great shows that we got, and maybe some new shows will pop up. And so, thank you, everybody.
All right, crispy bacon.
Yeah, thank everybody for tuning in and commenting and all that. So I mean, Coast to Coast is bringing you good stuff, and just stay tuned.
All right, James, any final thoughts for you, sir?
Well, I'm sorry for my internet and my earphones messing up, but hey, did y'all see the Washington new name and new uniforms? Did y'all love them or no?
Uniforms are kind of cool. Don't get me wrong.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not too big on it.
I'm such a uniform nerd that I point out all the things wrong about it. Like they don't have a stripe going down their pants.
Thank God.
Their road jersey looks like the Arizona Cardinals and what they should be. They just
There he is.
Where's Isaiah at?
He's in square 5, by the way.
Really, Isaiah? Really?
Come back on, Isaiah.
Love that pink sweater.
You literally forced me to come into this program right as I get home from work because you can't follow simple instructions about not talking about a certain sport.
First of all, they set me up. They set me up with that last topic.
It doesn't matter, Isaiah.
No, they didn't set you up.
It was a topic about hockey, and I didn't know, whatever it was. I knew what the trophy's name, but then I forgot it.
Oh,
and then I didn't know how many players are on the ice at once. I thought it was like 8 on 8, or 10 on 10, or 9 on 9. I don't know. Saw a whole bunch of little guys, not little guys, but saw a whole bunch of
guys. What?
people when I went to the Sharks game sitting in the second deck that were playing. I didn't know how much people were on. So, yes.
Oh, dear God.
All right, Colin, go ahead and roast them.
Isaiah, how many times have I told you about simple instructions? But also, how many times have I told you that the Stanley Cup is the hardest trophy to win in all of professional sports?
Mm-hmm. It's a fact.
The heaviest.
It's not the Super Bowl. It's not the NBA. It's not the Larry O'Brien. It's not the Commissioner's Trophy. It's not MLS Cup. It's the Stanley Cup, Isaiah.
So our final topic that we were having for NHL, and Callan, you can give your thoughts on this one, was this the question was simple. The question was, should they change it to where a team should not be able to win an NHL game on a penalty shot, or should it stay the same?
No, it needs to stay the same. Excuse me. I know a lot of people have been clamoring or talking about like maybe that they go the route of like playoff overtime for every regular season game. I'm fine. Honestly, it's a love-hate relationship, Adam and Brandon and Chris and James and Christy. Forget the guy in square 5 when it boils down to it's a love-hate relationship. It's simple as this, though. It's a love-hate relationship with 3-on-3 overtime, because it's a lot like basketball, I feel like, where whoever wins the opening face-off can basically control the puck for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and not give up possession. You see so many times, though, where I think sometimes people get bored out of their mind because everyone is literally just, they're just passing or they're changing and they're doing this, they're doing that. They're not really setting plays. You don't see a lot of like aggressive play, in regards to when someone wins the face-off. But then once you turn things over, because I think the strategy more so is to, win the face-off and just basically keep that other team's line out there for a good chunk of the overtime period. And I know that some people probably don't feel like it's, right to end a game on a shootout. I'm glad that they don't do that in the postseason, because I think that the shootout's perfect for a regular season game, but for playoffs, hey, I saw the Gulls beat Bakersfield one year in quadruple overtime. Oof, the first playoff game of the 2019 conference semifinals. There's been when the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim beat Dallas in, I think, a 5 overtime game. There's been 6 overtime games in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And again, the drama of playoff hockey is here. The drama of every other sport, including Isaiah's beloved hand egg, is way down here, because it can end right away, or it could take 8 overtime periods of 20 minutes of runtime with the full intermission break. I recall that I worked a game when the Gulls were playing Chicago in the conference final in 2019, 2020, when we were in the conference final, and our game went to double OT, and I'm getting a little concerned, like, oh no, here comes a quadruple OT game or 5 overtimes. We sadly lost in double OT. But, playoff hockey is a whole nother animal. But in regards to a game ending on a penalty shot, it's in the rule book. I've seen guys who have had hat tricks with 2 penalty shot or a penalty shot goal and 2 shorthanded goals. I've seen weird things happen in my, 7+ years with, in the AHL and 13 years basically in the sport in general. But in regards to a game ending on a penalty shot, it's fair game. I mean, Adam, just to clarify real quick, was the game in overtime when this happened?
Yes, the game was in overtime. Yeah.
Sudden death OT. So regardless, I mean, you score, you win the game, just like in hand egg if the first team scores a touchdown. So I kind of get though, like where everyone's coming from, maybe in regards to the overtime setup, but I think 3-on-3, it has its good. I think it's great because it just has so much open ice and stuff like that. But shootouts, though, need to stay. I know a lot of people have their thoughts about shootouts. Isaiah, quit nodding your head. You don't know what I'm talking about anyway, my friend. But shootouts, I think, are fair for the regular season. But other than that, give me triple, quadruple, and, 5, 6, 7, 8 overtimes in the playoffs. Let's do it. I'm all for it.
Colin, we got to clarify with Isaiah here. I mean, you just threw him off with the 3-on-3 and all that. Standard hockey is 5-on-5, Isaiah.
5-on-5, Isaiah.
And then in overtime,
the least amount of players you can play with is 3. You can have a 5-on-3 2-man advantage, or play 4-on-4, 4-on-3, or 3-on-3, as is the case in overtime. And when the game goes to a shootout, it's one player unimpeded with no one else around them getting one free shot on the goaltender.
Yep.
So like
I've
soccer,
seen I've seen shootouts go 16 rounds.
so like soccer.
Exactly.
Yeah. Except soccer plays with a few more players on there.
Exactly.
Thanks for clarifying.
Hockey is way more violent than football. Simple as that.
Thanks for clarifying, because I thought it was 8-on-8 or 10-on-10. Like I said.
Again, Isaiah, you literally make me come home and have to jump on a program to straighten you out, sir. That's what the problem is here, Isaiah, more than anything else.
To go to a more stock skin.
That was the only reason that this was brought up, anyways, was because when that game ended in overtime on a penalty shot, fans were very angry about it, and they're like,
first of all, let me ask though first, who was the parties involved in this game? Was it LA and Detroit?
Yes.
Who ended up winning the game?
That was LA.
Okay. I get the frustration, but hey, the rules of overtime is it's a sudden death period of 3-on-3, and if no one scores, you go to a 3-man shootout, or until someone wins the game in a shootout. So you can be frustrated, but the rules are the rules for a reason. So they scored, and by the rule, it's sudden death. LA wins the game. They get the extra point.
Yeah, it's
because it used to end in a tie, right?
I do know though that in college hockey, that I think they play an overtime period. This may still be the same in the Olympics too. They play a full overtime, I think, or at least a 5-minute overtime period. Then if no one wins, the game ends in a tie.
Yeah.
As will be the case at 5:10 a.m. when Team USA plays Finland for their first game in Beijing, on the ladies' side at least.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on and clearing up Isaiah there.
Simple instructions, Square 5. I'm going to chew you out when your program's over after I get my food.
So
you're not safe, sir.
So we do want to thank everybody for watching. And so everybody said their goodbyes. So we will see you guys next Wednesday for another episode of Sportsminute. So have a great night.